mountains. I lift my eyes to the mountains.
Where does my help?
Where does my help? Where does my help come from? I lift my eyes to the mountains. I lift my eyes to the mountains. I lift my eyes to the mountains.
Where does my help?
Where does my help? Where does my help come from?
Israel ora v'simcha. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shabbat menucha. Kidashta v'rachta oto mikol yamim. V'sheshet kilita melechet olamim. U'mato gomim ashketu vitcha. Shabbat, Shabbat menucha. Yom ze l'Yisrael ora v'simcha. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shabbat menucha. Yom ze l'Yisrael ora v'simcha. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shabbat menucha.
Shabbat Shalom. It's good to be with you here in person or on live stream. The sun has peeked out of the clouds. It seems that the rains have subsided, at least for now, and we get to celebrate Shabbat together. So we begin on page 67 with an inspirational opening meditation. I enter this sacred space to voice the longings of my heart in prayer. In sacred company, I offer my love to the Holy One. I devote myself this morning to psalm and song, study and prayer. May my heart be lifted, may my thoughts be deepened, and may my soul, like the eagle, soar. We turn to page 76 as we offer prayers first for body and then for soul, reminding ourselves of the gift that our bodies are, our health and our strength. We read it together, actually on the top of page 77. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe. With divine wisdom, you have made our bodies, combining veins, arteries, and vital organs into a finely balanced network. Wondrous maker and sustainer of life, were one of them to fail, how well we are aware. We would lack the strength to stand before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, source of our health and strength. Baruch atah Adonai rofei chol basar umafli la'asot. On page 78, we praise God for the gift of soul. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tahorahi. My God, the soul you have given me is pure.
Elohai neshama shenatata bi tahorahi. Ata v'rata, ata yitzareta, ata nefachta bi, v'ata mishamera b'kirbi. Kol zeman sheneshama b'kirbi. Modani lefanecha, Adonai Elohai v'Elohei avotai. Modani lefanecha, Adonai Elohai v'Elohei motai. Ribon kol hamasim, Adon kol neshamot. Baruch atah Adonai, Asher biyado nefesh kol chai, v'ruach kol besar ish.
Elu Devarim She'ein Lahem Shi'or. On page 88, we read together, reminding ourselves of our obligations to each other, knowing that when we give of ourselves, our community is strengthened. Join with me. These are the things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world, while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all. Page 106, we rise for Chatzi Kaddish and remain standing through the Shema.
Yitkadav yikadash shemei Rabba, Amen. V'amad yivrach netev, yamnich וחייכון ויומכון וחיי לכל בית ישראל. הגאולה וזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולמי עמיה. יתברך יתברך וישתבח יתפאר ויתאמן ויתנשא יתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי לקודשא בריחו לעילא מן כל ברכתה ושירתה ושבחתה ונחמתה דם ירון בעלמה ואמרו אמן. ברכו את אדוני המבורך ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
On page 110, we continue with Yotzer, or praising God for the gift of creation. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Yotzer or uvarei choshech, oseh shalom uvarei et hakol, hameir la'aretz v'ladarim alecha barachamim, uvtuvo mechadesh bechol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reshit. Ma rabu ma'asecha Adonai, kulam b'chochma asita, mal'a ha'aretz kinyanecha, titbarach Adonai Eloheinu, al shavach ma'aseh yadecha, ve'al me'arei or she'asita yifa'arucha sela, or chadash al tzion ta'ir, v'nizkeh chulanu meherat le'oro, baruch ata Adonai, yotzer ha'me'orot. On the bottom of 113, we read together. Love your neighbor, yourself, you said, and light-blinded we saw, that inner and outer worlds are one as you are one. You spoke and we wrote. We reached for you down the centuries, your light moving before us as we climbed, fell back, and climbed again. Your Sinai of life, page 112, V'ha'er einenu.
והאר עינינו בתורתך ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך ויחד לבבנו לאהבה וליראה את שמך ולא נבוש ולא ניגאל ולא וקרבתנו לשמך הגדול סלע באמת, להודות לך וליחדך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בעמו ישראל לאהבה. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. You may be seated. Please join me in the Hafta on page 106. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים אלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
On page 121, we read responsively. The eternal truth is that you alone are God, and there is none else.
May the righteous of all nations rejoice in your love and exult in your justice.
Let them beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks.
Let nation not lift up sword against nation, nor learn war anymore.
You shall not hate your brother or your sister in your heart.
The stranger that sojourns with you shall be accepted as your equal, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt.
Why do you crush my people and oppress the poor, asks God.
We know that the Eternal One defends the poor and upholds the rights of the needy.
Praise to God Most High. Blessed is God and deserving of blessing.
Rise for the Amidah on page 124.
Oh Eloheinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor veHanora, Elyon, Omer Chasadim Tovim, Vekone Hakol, Vezocher Chasdei Avot Bimahot, Umevig Geula Livnei Vneihem, Lema'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atah Rav Lehoshia, Morid Atah, Mechakel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayeh HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Tzomech Noflim Verofeh Cholim, U'Motir Asurim, U'Mekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ba'al Givurot, U'Mido Melech, Melech Memit U'Mechayeh, U'Motziach Yeshua, Ne'eman Atah L'Hachayot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol. Nekadosh et Shemcha ba'olam, Keshem Shemoti Shemotod, Bishmem Arom, Kakatuv Ayod Nevi'echa, V'karazel ze ve'amar. Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, Melech haaretz kevodo. Adir, Adirenu, Adonai, Adonenu, Adir Shimcha, Adir Shimcha, B'chol haaretz, Baruch Kevod Adonai.
continue with Yisbu, which is found on page 130, as we rejoice in Shabbat.
ישמחו במלאכותיך, שומרי 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 שבת, בקוראי עונג שבת. ישמחו במלאכותיך, שומרי 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 שבת, בקוראי עונג שבת. מקודשי שבי שבת, כולם ישמעו ויתענגו מטבעך שבת. ישמחו במלאכותיך, שומרי 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 שבת, בקוראי עונג שבת. ישמחו במלאכותיך, שומרי 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 שבת, בקוראי עונג שבת. והשביעי רצית בו וקידשת שבת, חמדות ימים אתה קראת שבת. ישמחו במלאכותיך, שומרי 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 שבת, בקוראי עונג שבת. ישמחו במלאכותיך, שומרי 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 שבת, בקוראי עונג שבת. זכר למעשה בראשית שבת, זכר למעשה בראשית שבת. ישמחו במלאכותיך, שומרי 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 שבת, בקוראי עונג שבת. ישמחו במלאכותיך, שומרי 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 שבת, בקוראי עונג שבת.
We continue together on page 134. Our God and God of our ancestors, be pleased with our rest. Sanctify us with your mitzvot. Grant us a share in your Torah. Satisfy us with your goodness. Gladden us with your salvation. Purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Adonai our God, grant us your holy Shabbat as a heritage. May Israel, who sanctifies your name, rest on Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-Shabbat. On page 137, we read responsively. On this holy Shabbat, may we draw nearer to life, to peace, and to joy. May we find true rest, holiness in our deeds, worth in our study of Torah. Let us feed on the love of goodness. Let us drink from the love of goodness. Restrain our thirst for excess and cleanse our hearts to serve life well.
On this holy Shabbat, may we draw nearer in life, in peace, and in joy. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadecha b'yirah na'avod.
A reading for Hoda'ah, which is not found in this section. God of goodness, we give thanks for the gift of life, wonder beyond words, for the awareness of soul, our light within, for the world around us so filled with beauty, for the richness of the earth which day by day sustains us. For all these and more, we offer thanks. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot.
Sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, tova veracha. Sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, tova own silent. Yehi ratzon imrefi vegyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzori v'gali. Aseh shalom imromah. Yaseh shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Imheru Amen.
Seder Kriyat Torah, service for the reading of Torah, page 245. Assemble the people, men, women, and children, and the strangers in your cities, to hear, to learn, to revere Adonai your God, to observe faithfully the words of this Torah. And let their children who do not yet know it hear, that they too may learn to revere Adonai your God. We rise in honor of the Torah.
Ein kamocha va'Elohim Adonai, ein kema'asecha. Malchutcha malchut kol ha'olamim, u'memeshatecha b'chol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai melech le'olam va'ed. Adonai os le'moited, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom.
We continue responsively on the bottom of page 247. In this scroll is the secret of our people's life from Sinai until now.
Its teaching is love and justice, goodness and hope. Freedom is its gift to all who treasure it. Baruch Shanatan Torah, Torah. Baruch Shanatan Torah, Torah. Le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב. יא לה 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 לה. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב. יא לה 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 לה.
For those who feel comfortable, instead of being seated, I invite you to actually come up on the bima. We're an intimate crowd this morning, so that we can share in a little bit of text study before we chant our Torah text. However, if you prefer to stay in your seats, we are happy to bring Torah to you. And also, if you're on live stream, right below the screen, you should be able to click a button, or maybe we're just posting it, I can't even remember, and see the text itself. Come on up, everyone. The beauty of a big bima is that we can be spread out. It's not always a beautiful thing, but in these particular instances, it is a beautiful thing. And I'm actually going to stand over here so that our friends on live stream can see me and not my back. We're always learning new things. Life is about flexibility and resilience. Secret to success. Okay. So we are in Parashat Ba'alotecha, and the section that leads up to the part we're going to look at today, God has called on Moses and Aaron and all the elders to come and convene for a prophetic experience with the Holy One. But two of the men, which we're going to see, decide they're not going to go, and instead they have their own prophetic moment, not in God's presence directly, like physically in their presence, but still in the camp. And the conversation that happens afterwards between someone who witnesses the situation, and then Joshua, and then Moses, really speaks to us about what the ideal of leadership is in the Jewish tradition. So we're going to start by reading the English of our text. Bernadette, of course, I'm going to ask you to read that, and then 3 commentaries to help us unpack the text.
2 men, one named Eldad and the other Medad, had remained in the camp, yet the Spirit rested upon them. They were among those recorded, but they had not gone out of the tent, and they spoke in ecstasy in the camp. A youth ran out and told Moses, saying, Eldad and Medad are acting the prophet in the camp. And Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' attendant from his youth, spoke up and said, My lord Moses, restrain them. But Moses said to him, Are you wrought up on my account? Would that all of Adonai's people were prophets, that Adonai put his spirit upon them. Moses then re-entered the camp together with the elders of Israel.
Great, thank you, Dad. So we have this moment where someone is doing the wrong thing, right? Quote unquote, the wrong thing. They're not doing the prescribed way of worshiping God at this early time in worshiping God. And so he goes to tell Joshua, who goes to tell Moses, and so we got to stop these guys. They're messing everything up, right? We're working really hard to get these rules, these rituals, everything in place. And these guys are doing it not the right way. Tattletale, for sure. And Moses' response is, okay, their motives seem to be pure. Maybe they didn't do it exactly the way I do it, but wouldn't it be great if I wasn't the only one that had this burden and this power? Now, just as an aside, because we're going to dig into what this says about Moses and his humility and his amazingness as a leader, I don't want to pretend that there aren't other moments in the Torah text where people do things not in the way that they're supposed to do them and really bad things, right? So we could talk about Eldad and Medad, which we're not going to do this morning per se, and think about what was their motivation. Why was it that their breaking the rules goes in a way that becomes something that people say it's okay, and someone like Nadav and Abihu, for instance, are destroyed, or even Korach, right, who pushes against Moses and Aaron's leadership, gets swallowed up by the earth. So maybe that's someone who's thinking about rabbinical school. That could be a really cool rabbinical school thesis to talk about power dynamics in the Torah. But for this moment, I just didn't want to pretend that those are not things for us to wrestle with in the text. We're going to look at Moses and what makes him so exceptional in this moment. So we start with a traditional commentary, the Akedat Yitzchak. And John, will you read that?
A man envies everyone except his own son and disciple. In my view, Moses' words constitute a remarkable example of humility, for beyond any envy, he actually desires that the Almighty bestow His Spirit on all Israel without him.
Great. So Akedat Yitzchak is pointing out, well, first he's quoting the Talmud, right? Which is to say, it is a normal human thing to be jealous of or envy other people who seem to have more authority or more success in their life, except maybe, and I want to add the maybe, right? Your own child or your own disciple, the person who you have brought up to be successful, right? So really just owning that and saying that's a normal way for human beings to feel. And yet Moses seems here not only to be acting appropriately, but literally to be without envy, right? That he really is glad to see that when he goes, when he dies, there will be others who could be filled with that prophetic ability as well. All right. So then we continue with Rabbi Eli Monk. Zach, be up for that task? Can you read that?
Moses' reply is so significant. Would that the entire people of Adonai could be prophets. That was said without jealousy of his prerogatives as a leader, without fear of being equaled or surpassed by others. How markedly this stands in contrast to the attitudes of other leaders. The primary concern is to preserve their rights and power. They cannot tolerate, even under democratic rule, the equal sharing of power among members of the community. Here stands revealed the simplicity and the majesty of a man who never sought personal gain. He never tried to prolong the necessary inequality between his position as a leader and that of his brother. To the contrary, Moses wished that all would achieve the wisdom with which he had been endowed, that every Jew could participate in the most sacred of communication and prophecy, speaking God's word.
Thank you. So Rabbi Eli Monk is not a 21st century commentator, I believe 19th century, but wow, he could be speaking about our own troubles in our world, not just in the United States, though there's plenty of that too, but in the world of leaders who, once they have control, they don't want to share that leadership. And they get angry and defensive and jealous if others try to step in or act like they know what they're doing and try to offer advice. So I was listening to the radio on the way in, as I often do, and they're talking about the bipartisan debating about the aid packages for infrastructure, right, in the country, and that no one wants to be seen as the one walking away from the table, even though both sides are really far apart. Now they're trying to come to a compromise. And I actually thought, well, that's good. It feels like a really long time since that's been the case. And maybe we are actually moving towards this place where, in some small way, people want to be, when in their leadership, they want what's best for the people and not just only to maintain their own power. Right? And I think we see this again and again in talking about Moses, that this is one of the qualities about Moses that made him the greatest prophet ever known, according to the Torah at the end of the book of Deuteronomy. So Joshua, will you read for us the Rabbi Bradley Shavi Artson? Because this actually brings not only the leadership piece, but this idea of the multiplicity of views and sharing power and intelligence that makes Judaism so strong and vibrant.
Recognizing his own limits, Moses' modesty is a lesson for all who would be leaders. God instructs Moses to gather 70 elders. The medieval commentator Ramban notes that the number 70 has special significance in Judaism. It represents the total number of nations in the world, the totally number of sacrifices on Sukkot, as well as the total number of Jews who went down to Egypt. 70 is a number representing completion. But the Rambam continues, so too 70 represents the many all opinions that are possible in a given case. Through the authorization of 70 sages, God establishes diversity as a Jewish virtue. By providing the leadership and the rabbinic Sanhedrin with dissenting opinions, God assures that every possible view will be articulated and heard. Torah presents diverse viewpoints as a source of richness and vitality, and most importantly, stability for the Jewish people. And the ability to incorporate dissenting viewpoints within the same religious tradition is the great innovation of rabbinic Judaism. It's why we are still here. Our own day and age is sorely in need of this rabbinic mindset rooted in Moses. Would that all the Lord's people were prophets? What threatens the vitality and strength of Judaism today is not pluralism and an array of ways to be Jewish. What threatens Judaism is indifference, an all too common attitude Jews have towards their heritage, an artificially imposed uniformity. Instead, each of us can be prophets, inspired by Moses' hope, by developing our own understandings, by engaging with other Jews in study and discussion. We become elders, keeping the tabernacle intact, cultivating the resources that enrich Judaism. And in the process of expressing our commitment, we celebrate diversity, affirming a unity without conformity, the key to our people's evolving journey, which started long ago in the wilderness of Sinai.
Thank you. So definitely, I know it's a very powerful, case for pluralism within Judaism specifically, and clearly Rabbi Shavit Artson is speaking to the idea that in Orthodox Judaism, often there's this idea that their quote-unquote traditional way of being Jewish is the only way to be Jewish, though we see throughout our Jewish tradition, not only in the Torah itself, but throughout the Rabbinic Judaism, how practice and perspective has evolved from the moment that we have two creation stories in chapter 1 and chapter 2 in the book of Genesis. We see that there are always differences of opinion and differences of practice just built into what the essence of Judaism is all about. But I think we can also extend that to a more generic secular idea of leadership, which is to say, when you have a diverse group of opinions around the table, your final output is going to be strong. Because if everyone says yes to everything that you say, then there's bound to be flaws. It's only when you push and challenge each other that you're able to get a stronger, better product. And whether that's in leadership or in Jewish community or in a congregation like this one, having lots of opinions and perspectives is really essential to the well-being and the future as well. And so Moses teaches us to be respectful and also flexible in how we engage with others. So with that, Cantor is going to chant our text. We haven't done this in a really long time. I mean, we've read Torah every week, but we want to invite everyone to come forward with our maslon to share in a communal blessing of reading Torah. And then you get to also get up close and personal and see the Torah itself. So as you feel.
אמן. וישארו שני אנשים במחנה, שם האחד אלדד, ושם השני מדד, ותנח עליהם הרוח, והמה בכתובים, ולא יצאו האוהלה, ויתנבאו במחנה. וירץ הנער, ויגד למשה, ויאמר, אלדד ומדד מתנבאים במחנה. ויען יהושע בן נון, משרת משה, מבחוריו, ויאמר, אדוני משה, פלאים. ויאמר לו משה, המקנא אתה לי, ומי ייתן כל העם אדוני נביאים, ייתן אדוני את רוחו עליהם. ויאסף משה אל המחנה, ובזקני ישראל. אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
And so, in the presence of Torah, we offer prayers for those who face the future not fully whole. Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov v'Imotenu Sarah Rivka Leah v'Rachel. May the one who blessed our ancestors before us bring strength to all those who struggle against sickness, and wholeness to all those who long to be healed. If there's someone in your life, someone you hold in your heart, who's on your mind, we ask you to whisper their names aloud at this moment. Join our prayers for those who are our own loved ones with prayers for those listed in our healing list on our order of service. Join together now, singing prayers of healing. Shabbat. We make ready to return Torah to the Ark. We turn to page 252 as we lift our Torah high.
Page 256. It's Chaim Hi, Lamachazikim Ba, V'tomcha Me'oshar, Teracheha, Tacheno, V'chone
continue with Aleinu on page 280.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שהוא שם חלקנו לייחד את שמו, וגור עלינו להמליך מלכותו, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. Page 291. It is hard to sing of oneness when the world is not complete, when those who once brought wholeness to our life have gone, and not but memory can fill the emptiness their passing leaves behind. But memory can tell us only what we were, in company with those we love. It cannot help us find what each of us alone must now become, yet no one is really alone. Those who live no more echo still within our thoughts and words. What they did is part of what we have become. We do best homage to our dead when we live our lives more fully, even in the shadow of our loss. For each of our lives is worth the life of the whole world. Each one is the breath of the ultimate one. In affirming the one, we affirm the worth of each one whose life, now ended, brought us closer to the source of life, in whose unity no one is alone. Every life finds purpose. Our thoughts turn now to those in our community who have died at this time in years past. As we mark their yard-sites, we remember them. Jack Alter, Shirley Alter, Fofo Anthony, Benita Wiederman-Batt, Ruth Bayer, Becky Block, Dorothy Dottie Drieben Block, Sabina Lowenberg Block, Emma Brown, Henry Cohen, Herbert Crane, Lily Fisher, Henry Fischel, Herman H. Fleischman, Howard Goldberg, Erwin Golden, Jetty Goshawk, Nita Greenberg, Sadie Grossman, Jack Gerwit, Solomon Health, Bob Hayden, Sarah Josephson, Rosemary Keller, Maria Dmitrievna Kiseleva, Freda Kleinman, Estelle Kovner, Anatoly Kravchenko, Herbert Lauderstein, Dr. Samuel S. Less, Alex Lieberman, Jacob Menick, David Buddy Michelson, Richard Neely, Lenore Neer, Helene Ofterdinger, John Ofterdinger, Jenny Phillip, Harold Reamer, Morris Rosenstein, Myrna Rosenstein, Dr. Morris Rubenstein, Vera Fischel Rush, Willis Solomon, Ira Schwartz, Elizabeth Sheff Schachman, Harry Stahl, Beatrice Stein, Stancy Stein, Louis R. Sutton, Richard R. Toussey, Bernard Weinstein, Robert Weinstein, and Henry D. Wexner Jr. We also think of those who've died this past month, whose families are in a mourning period of Shloshim. We remember Rabbi Morley T. Feinstein, Arthur Gerwit, Lisa Starr Rosenstein, and Sabra Landy. We also think of one who died this past month. Family is in a mourning period of Shiva. Remember Stanley David Rosenberg, husband of Sandra Rosenberg, father of Susan and Lee Sandolsky, Carol and Steve Baskin, Jill and Bobby Rosenthal, grandfather of Allison and Zach Kaplan, Sean and Maggie Sandolowski, Sam Baskin, Kelsey Baskin, Justin Rosenthal, Blake Rosenthal, and Aubrey Rosenthal. Great-grandfather of Dylan Kaplan, Charlotte Kaplan, Oliver Sandalowski, and Caroline Sandalowski. Brother-in-law of Kenneth and Carol Sugarman. Uncle of Michael Sugarman, Amy and Dan Weingart, and Andy Sugarman, Stephen Sobel, and Lauren and Roy Harris. To all of these names, we add those which are in our hearts each and every day as we join together for Kaddish Yatom on page 294. We rise as a community. Yitzgadal v'yitzkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayachon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, v'agala u'vizman kariv, imru, amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam ulmei almaya, v'yitzbarach v'yishtvach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudashah b'richu, La'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, shushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. May the one who is on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we say, amen.
Our closing song will be announced by our cantor.
Please join in singing Oseh Shalom. Oseh Shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen.
Shabbat Shalom.